Thank you. So I believe I have about 8 minutes, and we are already a bit late, so I'll go fast. So this project, I'll be talking about the greening of our apparel sector. Primarily here, the definition of greening will be adoption of solar panels, rooftop solar panels. So I'm actually representing a very large group coming from many different departments. But BRAC University has been very supportive in this project. So this is a research program which has actually 4 different studies. I'll be talking about results from the first 3. BRAC University Center for Entrepreneurship Development maintains a very large database for all the apparel sector exporters in Bangladesh. And we have supplemented furthermore with 2 studies. One is actually funded by IGC here, and I'll show you some result from actually all these 3 studies. For the pedal one, I'll be mostly talking about some qualitative data. So I think the primary question, there are 3 questions that I'll talk about. The first one is there a feasible business case for adopting hybrid renewable energy technologies in Bangladesh among the apparel exporters? And then I'll be talking about what features or what factors are associated with adoption of renewable energy. And then I'll be talking about some policy expectation. We have somebody here from the apparel exporters. I would like to I'm really curious to actually know what they think about it. So the first part of the talk, I'll be talking about kind of a case studies. And so one point is when we talk about adoption of solar rooftop solar panels, it actually comes from different kind of capacity. And it's actually really important for a couple of different reasons. So and the main point here is how much saving a factory will be able to make in terms of their energy cost will depend on the scale of their installation. So for example, we did case studies with 5 different companies, and I'll be mostly talking about the left one you see here, which installed about 3.5 megawatt. So this is a very large scale installation. And you can see for them, the savings is about 26%. The second one is 13%, which is associated with the installation of about 1 megawatt. So the main takeaway here is how much saving a factory will be able to do will depend on the size of the installation. And it also depends on what kind of financial model a factory will be interested in. So for example, for upfront investment through maybe capital expenditure or a full-fledged capital lease, the savings can be about 27%, but it is typically slightly more popular, the OPEX model, where they're actually getting into a contract with a provider, and with a reduced price, there the savings is about 9%. But I think one need to be very careful, because in the OPEX operation expenditure model, the whole risk is actually with the provider. In the other model, the total risk is with the factory or the company who are making the initial upfront expenditure. And the internal rate of return can be about 36%, and the payback period, according to our calculation, is about 7 years, which one would consider quite favorable from an investment point of view. So in the second part, I'll show you some results from a large survey about actually the whole universe of apparel exporter in Bangladesh. Here you can see what their location are. Most of them are situated in Gazipur and North Dhaka, Savar, which is kind of the main hub. And the installation rate is about 30%. So about 1/3 of the factories have some type of installation. For our IGC sample, it's about 33%. But what we don't have in the larger survey, we have in our smaller survey, the capacity, and it's about 162 kilowatt, which is actually quite small in comparison with the total energy demand a factory has. And not only that, among those people among the companies who have established some sort of rooftop solar installation, about 48% of them are use it for production. For the other ones, they use it for some small office energy need, but not for production. So in terms of factors that are associated, we see that the larger factories are more likely. That's actually not very surprising. If the factory has a shared premise, then it becomes much more difficult because they don't have less control over their rooftop. If the factory is previously part of Accord or Alliance, or if they have some sort of workers committee, then they are more likely to install solar rooftop. We also see that if the factory or the company supplies to many different brands, so if there's a diversification in the types of or the brands that they supply to, then it is positively associated. There's also an interesting pattern that the adoption is also clustered. So if there are more factories with solar panels within 1.5 kilometers, this is kind of arbitrary. We have to work a lot more on that. It is also associated with, strongly associated with adoption. What are the motivations behind adoption? So financial savings or eco-friendly production, according to them, those are those are the motivation or reasons that our respondents have reported. And it is also supported by some qualitative interviews that we have carried out. For example, here says solar panel is now affordable. So grid electricity is costly. So they can actually just think about the 30 or 27% saving that are associated with a large-scale solar installation. The average capacity is low, but when we ask them why they cannot expand, so not having enough space come out with the dominant reason, according to our respondent. People who have not adopted, the reason for them not adopting is high initial cost of installation. So 65, 2/3 of them actually reported that high cost. Most of them actually know about renewable energy, so information is probably not the primary barrier, but one can actually do some additional research on that. In terms of seeking support, the respondents, the companies actually rely or expected support from the government a lot, not so much from the buyers but there's considerable support that they expect from if we add the BGMEA and BKMEA, the industry bodies, then there's also expectation from support from their trade bodies. And what kind of support they need? Not surprising that some sort of dedicated financial support comes up with the types of support that our apparel exporters expecting. So the main takeaways, and I apologize for rushing a bit, the large and compliant factories are more likely to adopt, but the overall adoption rate is still on the lower side. The average size of solar installation is also quite small, only 162 kilowatt. And as I say, that one actually need for a moderately large factory about, I think the scale would be between 2 and 3 megawatt. So overall energy transition in this sector, I would say one can say either low or quite slow. So high upfront cost is a deterrent, according to our respondent, especially for the smaller companies, and financial support can encourage the hybrid solar installation. And the case study that I focused on, it also had a net metering. So those kind of net metering can also promote adoption among our apparel exporter in Bangladesh. So I would like to know what are your thoughts, sir? But I'll hand it over to the organizer. And I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about our research. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Otanu, sir. So I'd just like to go back to Mugdha Bhai again. So Mugdha Bhai, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ash. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and yeah, we all can hear you. You can just share your slides and start your presentation.
All right, sounds good. Can you see my slides now?
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, it's there. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for inviting. So again, I think I'll follow Atanu Bhai's steps. We'll try to finish it within 8 minutes. So this is a joint project with Dr. Kazi Iqbal from Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies, Kazuki Motohashi from Hitotsubashi University in Japan, and Haruka Takayama from SUNY Albany. So this project, we talk about trade in RMG sector in Bangladesh and trying to understand whether it has an impact on the environment overall. So the overarching question that we all know is that whether, simultaneous economic growth and environmental sustainability could be achieved together or not. And that is one of the biggest questions that every country faces, especially the developing countries. And in terms of developing countries, as we know, international trade, plays a huge role in terms of achieving the economic growth they have achieved in the last couple of decades. However, it is not very clear whether international trade will always have a positive or negative impact on environment. And when we talk about international trade, we know that multinationals and their foreign affiliates on an average contributes 2/3 of the total international trade. So many of you in the room might have known about Rana Plaza incident in Bangladesh, where thousands of workers died due to a building collapse. So after that, many labor standards in the R&D sectors have been improved. However, the concern was focused on labor standards as much. It was not very clear whether environmental standards or environmental concerns were getting proper attention in export sector. In this particular paper, what we are trying to study is to investigate whether multinationals and their responsible sourcing improve the quality of local environment. To be precise, the primary question that we are asking in this paper, does exporting to brand firms compared to non-brand firms impact water pollution differently? And the secondary part of the paper, we also show that whether overall RMG export have any impact on environmental pollution in Bangladesh. Just to quickly go over what is brand, as you know, all the brand stores around the UK or other cities in Europe or on the West, you see, H&M, North Face, Timberland, CNA. So these are the top brands where, exports are going from Bangladesh. And we validate this with Fashion Transparency Index. So they have ranking of brands, and we are categorizing brands from this particular index and matching that with our administrative data. Talking about data, so in this paper, we're using administrative data from National Board of Revenue, where we have transactional level export custom records of all the farms exporting RMGs to the globe from Bangladesh. We also use another set of administrative data using Department of Environment in Bangladesh, where they have 127 monitoring stations, where we are using the water quality data, specifically dissolved oxygen, and then we are also using biochemical oxygen demand as our major outcome variable to measure pollution. Just briefly on the identification. So as Atanu Bhai in his previous presentation was showing, so these are the little pink dots are showing the location of garments factories, and the blue dots are the water monitoring stations. So the way we're identifying is we are taking a 10-kilometer buffer of the closest stations around the closest stations with the RMG factories, and we are only considering the upstream RMG factories to understand the pollution in the downstream. And we change this buffer, and the main results remain same. So the first one, it's more about showing the correlation. Rather, this is not our primary identification. The first regression results that I'm going to present is two-way fixed effect approach that we are taking on the regression, where we have the water quality measures, and we are using the station fixed effect, month fixed effects, and year fixed effects, and we are measuring export share around each monitoring station. So this one, if you can just look into column 3, using the two-way fixed effect model, we are seeing that the amount of dissolved oxygen is reducing compared to the mean. So it is showing that with export, there is some concern in water pollution that we're having. However, if we just categorize to brands, we don't see any kind of significant impact over here. So this is just to start and showing that overall export might have some negative impact on water pollution in Bangladesh. Now coming to the main specification, where we are using the staggered timing difference in difference approaches using Callaway and Santana 2021 estimator. So over here, our main explanatory variable export brand turns to 1 and remains 1 when more than 50% of the firms surrounding a station start exporting for brands. Again, we change this cutoff, the results remain same. So over here, using this DID approach, we are presenting the results over here. Again, our main outcome variable is dissolved oxygen. As you know that anything below 5 mg in the water level is triggered as very bad situation in the water environment in the rivers. Over here, what we're observing, when exporters are primarily exporting their product to brands, that dissolved oxygen level increases. So it shows that there is around 64% water quality improvement when exporters are primarily or majorly exporting to brand versus non-brand. And similar results shows when you use BOD as our outcome variable. Overall, then we also, because we are using DID, want to make sure that the parallel trends are there, and we also want to understand how long this effect is there when exporters are primarily exporting for brands versus non-brand. So we use event study specification, and overall over here, what you are seeing that before the intervention, so before an exporter or a factory start exporting majorly for brands, there is no effect on DO. However, after like a year, 12 months, when they primarily started exporting for brands, there is a positive effect on the water quality level in terms of DO, and then it persists over 48 months, around 4 years of time. Again, I'm sorry for rushing a bit on the results given the time constraint. So I'll just end with 5 bullets on policy implication. So the first one is that we need to strengthen our environmental regulation enforcement. As you know, Bangladesh government face serious challenges given the maintaining the environmental standard, and this could be, the enforcement could be weak, and also the government shorts manpower to maintain this kind of enforcement. I think this findings suggest that leveraging private enforcement mechanism, such as these brand buyers requirement, and if the government could work with them, then there would be a positive impact in reducing the pollution level. Second one is that introducing polluting monitoring station and warning system. As you know, all these factories are in a clustered basis. So if there is a real-time pollution alert system that could trigger the government, they can come and inspect what is happening in that particular cluster. We know in China, this has been very useful. The third one is harmonizing environmental certification requirements. So when we did our interviews, we found that factory owners, they have to maintain different kind of certification from the brand buyer, certification from the government. So it is very difficult for them to maintain so many certifications. So if there is a harmonization in terms of certification, that could help the factory owners. And overall, we should encourage multinationals to support green productions. So over here, from the multinational firm, the local manufacturer can get some technological transfer, especially in terms of the high-tech ETPs, the plants that could help them to go for green production. And overall, what we are seeing is that these non-brand buyers are the major source of water pollution in Bangladesh. So somehow there has to be consumer awareness. There has to be, stricter implementation in terms of when factories are exporting to non-brands. And compliance among these firms who are exporting to non-brands is going to be very important. And here, the policymakers, the consumer advocacy groups, the regulatory bodies can come together and play a very serious role to reduce pollution. So I'll stop here and thank you. Looking forward to your comments.
Thank you, Mukta Bhai. I will now hand over to Mashoor Bhai. Mashoor Bhai, we have exact 23 minutes to do the panel and Q&A. So please take over.
Thank you, Ash. Very good afternoon to everyone. And my apologies, I was a couple of minutes late as Anna, Ash, and others were helping me to connect and overcome the technological barrier that I was facing. Thank you. It was really great hearing this very sharp, concise presentation from Dr. Mazab and Dr. Rabbani. Ready-made garments, just a brief context, it is lifeline to Bangladesh's economy. The principal export sector, 84% of total export basket, the principal formal manufacturing job creator. It is also a big stabilizer of the macroeconomy through the export proceeds. It adds to the exchange rate, foreign exchange reserves, and to the balance of payment, and so on. And it has done pretty well in the last 4 decades, second largest in the world, pretty competitive, however, operating within the basic value level, which is the low value, large volume production category products. Going forward, Bangladesh, the sector faces a number of emerging developments globally and also in the context of Bangladesh's own evolution. The graduation out of the LDC country at the moment scheduled for November 2026 will mean that within 3 years from that, the preferential market access, zero duty tariff access in the European Union and countries like Japan, Canada, Australia is going to go, and between 9 to 13% tariff is going to be imposed. And European Union is the destination where more than 50% of Bangladesh's ready-made garments are exported. So that can be a big hit. Secondly, the global protectionism, the trade war, and the latest reciprocal tariff. It all means that the Bangladesh's comfortable scenario with regard to tariff trade policy may not necessarily be in the next few years. And finally, the very important one, which is very relevant to today's discussion, is the changing landscape of compliance, particularly on the ESG and European Union Green Deal, the Circular Economy Action Plan, HRED, the Human Rights and Environmental Due Diligence, Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence, Carbon Border Adjustment Measures, and many others. And similar requirements are also changing at the buyer's level and the country level. So the importance of green ready-made garments, are compliant, environmentally and socially compliant ready-made garments perhaps could not have been more important as it is now. So to hear about this whole perspective, we have 3 distinguished panelists with us, bringing in different diverse and rich background from their professional experience. We have Mashook Mujib Choudhury, Senior Manager, Sustainability from one of the largest conglomerates and ready-made garment textile group, DBL Group. We have Nuria Lopez, who has been both a buyer but also a manufacturer, a foreign investor in Bangladesh, and recently been elected as the first president of the European Union Chamber in the country. And then we have a senior policymaker, Mr. Abdul Rahim Khan, who's the additional secretary and export wing chief in the Ministry of Commerce, spearheading a number of policy initiatives. So thank you all for joining. Let me start with Mr. Mashook Mujib Choudhury, who represent the manufacturers, who represent the exporters. it is it's really important to understand how they see this space evolving and how they are preparing for that, right? So, Mr. Chaudhary, my question to you is, how do buyers, as we have heard from both Professor Rabbani and Dr. Mazhab's excellent presentation, buyers, who have their own standards, demand, and who in turn face their own consumers and stakeholders in terms of their requirements or their changing taste and other patterns which have implications on sustainability. So how do these buyers influence sustainability standards in Bangladesh RMG sector, for example, in DBL? And and we know that DBL has been preparing and implementing a number of sustainability measures. Would you characterize these DBL sustainability approaches or initiatives as a response to the buyer's pressure and demand, or is it something that you saw as something that the business model must incorporate and offer to the market? So over to you, Mr. Chaudhary, and we have about I think 6 minutes for you.
Sure. Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. So for DBL Group, no, it is not a buyer-driven issues, because we've been working with sustainability programs in over, if you're talking about both social and environmental sustainability, as early as 2008. If we are briefly starting with the social part, so we have our own fair price shop. We call it Bandhan Fair Price Shop. So Bandhan meaning bonding in Bengali. So we're referring to the bonding between the employer and employee. So this was the very first sustainability program that we started. That was way back in 2008. There was no pressure from the brands. There was no pressure from anyone, but we voluntarily started with it. And that's how it began. For the environmental part, there was technically the very first, we're not talking about the machines being procured, because we have in our spinning mill, for example, since 2006 it has started. The spinning mills are still running, the spinning mill machines are still running at over 90% efficiency. So we have made the investment, and which is still returning. Even after, so to say, the lifetime should have been gone, but it's still going on. But if you're talking about specific programs, that was essentially the Cleaner Production Program by IFC. That's what we started back in 2010. So these were all voluntary programs. No brands or anyone else has pushed us for it. So in regard to the brands being involved, this basically came in just around COVID time, or just pre-COVID time. So that was a particular change that occurred, because that's when the brands have set up targets, specifically if you're talking about carbon emissions, like reducing the carbon emissions, absolute carbon emissions by 50%, 60%. It depends on the different brands, even adopting renewable energy usage as well. So that is a particular thing after the COVID, that these particular pressures have come in. So, but we've been working as DBL Group. DBL Group has been working with sustainability initiatives since much more earlier on. So that actually helped us understand or adopt better as well. But from the brand side, it came in later on. I mean, with the brands, we started with the Partnership for Cleaner Textile program, the phase 2 of it specifically. So that was what one or two brands, or multiple brands are there. For us, relevant was about 2 brands were relevant over there. And that's, for example, in the PACT, Partnership for Cleaner Textile program, that's where they talked about issues like renewable energy. PACT 1 initially focused more on the water issues, but then it has gone into the renewable energy issues as well. So the overall answer would be yes, we started on our own. Now we're trying to adopt with the different programs that our different brands have as well. Because that, as we are the supply chain partner, so we are contributing as much as possible to their requirements as well. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful, and you've spared us at least 2 minutes from your allocated time. So I'm going to take advantage of that and ask a follow-on question. Renewable energy, a big part of the this whole sustainability push. So what is DBL Group's experience in terms of usage of renewable energy? What percentage or what share of your total power that you use, energy that you use, comes from renewable for your RMG production? And what opportunities do you see to scale up the production, increase the production of renewable energy, and what would be some of the barriers that need to be addressed to do that? So 2 minutes, if you can quickly share with us.
Sure. And in overall, renewable energy share is not as much. I mean, if you're talking about our total production and everything, we have installed capacity of about 5.42 megawatts. That's through all our factories together. So that is a particular challenge that is there. And one particular challenge that we have currently is that we have our buildings which has been constructed much more earlier on. So it's as early as 2002, if you're talking about it. We're not talking about our very, very first factory. We're talking about the expansions that have occurred throughout the years. But those buildings, they are meeting all the building codes, the Bangladesh National Building Codes, and everything else they are meeting it. But the capacity for installing solar, that is very limited over there. However, when we are having newer buildings, when we are having newer facilities, for example, we have in Nayanpur, Ghazipur, so we have our LEED Platinum certified factories as well. 3 buildings are there, 3 of them are LEED Platinum certified. So there we could utilize it. So if you're talking about making new factories, for example, we have our expansion. We have a new factory in Sylhet. So that's our new spinning mill. So that we have optimized it from day one so that it can use as much renewable energy as possible. Currently, the challenge is, yes, we are having problems with the capacity of, not the capacity of it, because even solar technology itself has evolved through the years. That is one of the things that we've seen, that earlier on when we attended different programs in 2018, they were talking about a payback period of 20 to 25 years, which in business that doesn't make sense. But the payback period has come down to about 7 to 10 years now. So that is much more better in terms of business. So newer factories, we can go for as much optimization of solar as well. For existing factories which are meeting all the building codes, we have to explore further. Like, I mean, they're talking about carpet-based or thin film solar systems as well. So how to make use of it. I mean, for example, we cannot go for battery storage right now because that's going to increase the weight even further. So this has to be, the particular technology has to evolve in Bangladesh. That's what we feel.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. I think it's fascinating to hear that you already generate 5.4 megawatts of captive power, largely from renewable. But so there's clearly opportunities and when DBL and Bangladeshi companies embrace expansion or new greenfield projects as they aspire to expand the capacities. But also, I think technology access to finance, some of the important critical barriers. So with that, let me now turn to my dear friend, Nuria. Nuria, great to see you here on this panel. Nuria, you have seen both sides. You've been a buyer who sourced products from Bangladesh, RMG, and took to Spain and Europe. But you have also recently, in the past few years, you have also been a manufacturer and exporter from Bangladesh as you set up your own manufacturing plant in Bangladesh. So in light of your experience, and also I must also mention that you have many important buyers who work with you together at the Eurocham, the European Union Chamber, in the executive committee and within your broader membership group. So in light of your experience, how much importance do you feel buyers of Bangladesh apparel industry allocate to the issue of sustainability? Or in other words, how important, how critical the issue of maintaining ESG and the overall sustainability is to the buyers when it comes to sourcing from Bangladesh. And if I may, just an additional element of the question, sustainability has many areas. There is the broad level environmental, social, governance these days, human rights, corporate sustainability. Which elements of sustainability do the buyers, particularly European buyers, emphasize or prioritize on? Over to you, Nuria.
Thank you, Masuk, and thank you very much for inviting me here today. So let me just go into the question. The first one, how the brands, we have to separate, when we're talking about brands, but when you're talking about buyers, we have to talk about the brands, which are very much and very focused on this. because they understand that they need to keep a high standard on that. And then we are talking about the other buyers that they are non-brands. And that's an important thing to do, because at the same time, we also have to to make a differentiation between which are the big groups like DBL, Envoy, Pacific Jeans, all those big groups that they are already in there, that they are already, sustainability is a major factor for them, and they don't even have to be pushed by the brands, because they, in the same way that they went to the LED Platinum, which is not a requirement in the compliance, most of them, they have it, so they are already very conscious. So for me, the important thing right now in this area is the awareness going to the SMEs and the awareness of what we need to do in the buyers as well. The buyers that they are non-brands. They come and they don't care about anything. They're just thinking about the price. They don't care about any sustainability. They don't care anything. So that's an important difference that we have to do. Brands are really strongly focused. And I believe as well that Bangladesh still has to do a lot on sustainability. But I also believe that we will do it in the same way that we did it in compliance. Whatever we have achieved with the compliance about all the corporate, the good governance and all these things is very strong. We have to apply this still in sustainability, but basically, I think we will do it. We are getting very conscious right now, but we have to be paying a lot of attention in the awareness. Because when we're talking about sustainability, we are not only talking about sustainable energy, we are talking about recycling, and we're also talking about the water management. These three areas are very strong for them. The other things that you talked before us are more social compliance and all those things that were already quite strong in Bangladesh. But if we are focusing in this, in sustainability, the chamber, we are now discussing how to reach the SMEs. If we want to create an impact, we have to reach the SMEs. We have to tell them that this is also for them, that it will be very complicated to export to Europe, which is the largest market, the larger customer they have right now. And they have to understand that, that they can do it. It's not because they are small, they will be keep it aside. We have to teach them as well. For instance, they can do a consortium. They believe that, okay, sustainable energy, I cannot invest. Yes, you can do. You can create a consortium in the area. We can try to give them this information. We have to teach them how to do it. That's important, and they will do. Because at the end of the day, this is going to be a savings for them, and at the same time, they are also this will allow them to have more access to the market. So this is the important thing. And we need to understand as well that our country, our neighbor countries, the competitors, they are there. They are much advanced than us. So we have to rush. And the number 3 point that I will not talk too much about it, is we have to align with the government. I mean, the government cannot be aside. I mean, we need a lot of policy reforms in order to create a strong, for instance, recycling hub in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh need to understand that recycling is a must for Bangladesh. We are the number 2, as you say, largest exporter of garments. That means that we have to show to the world, yes, we are exporting a lot, but we are using recycled yarns, we are bringing and we are recycling things, so we are supporting also to reduce. So we have plus 10, but if we have minus 6 to deduct from there, then we only have, the result will be only 4, right? So basically this is what is my opinion about it. And the brands, yes, 100%, they are really keen to move this forward.
Thank you, Nuria. Thank you. You mentioned about policy. So I think we are missing our third panelist, Mr. Abdur Rahim Khan, the export wing chief at the Ministry of Commerce of Bangladesh, and who we were looking forward to hearing more about what policy initiatives are there at the moment to support this. So maybe I can take advantage of that vacuum. And Nuria, I can go back to you in 1 minute. If there are two, what would be your top 2 policy asks to the government in order to help Bangladesh ready-made garment factory sector to become more compliant environmentally? Top 2 policy ask.
For me, from my side.
Yes.
One is in recycling. They have to understand that the ecosystem is not friendly for recycling. Right now, to use cotton, not natural cotton, it's more competitive for the people. It has more benefit. And obviously, we have to be working more into the energy. Exactly, I cannot tell you which ones, because we are working to create this one. But in recycling, there is a lot of things to do in the policy reforms. You cannot, they are charging VAT, many things. Even NBR now, we have been discussing with NBR recently. We need to sit down together, both parts, the recycling companies that we already have in Bangladesh, the government, and the brands as well, to tell them exactly what we have to achieve. And this is a full, we cannot do it alone. We have to understand that this is a comprehensive. We have to study in full all these things. As you said before, Bangladesh, it's also very important that we understand that we need to have competitiveness, Masood. We cannot lose competitiveness nowadays. So we have to create this environment to say, look, this is also, it's competitive, it is clean, and our buyers will be appreciating this.
Thank you, Nuria. Really appreciate. And now I ask the same question to Mr. Mashuk Chaudhary from DBL Group. Bangladesh, green, ESG compliant Bangladesh ready-made garment sector. What are your top two asks to the government in terms of policy reforms or support to help Bangladesh transition toward a more green ready-made garment sector? Mr. Chaudhary.
Sure. Thank you very much. And yes, among the policy support, what we feel like that in overall relevant people within the government should be understanding what do we mean by green, because there's a particular lack of knowledge, or some sort of a gap is there. I mean, even if you start with renewable energy, the tax rates of renewable energy, the import taxes are still high. I think very recent, within the fiscal year, I've possibly heard that they have tried to reduce it. But if you're talking about traditional, that's very high. I mean, I think there was once the cables for the renewable energy. The solar panels themselves have one particular rate, but the cables have a much more higher rate as well, which really does not help. So these are the particular challenges that need to be addressed. So we're talking, and from the industry, we're talking about very relevant parts as well. And why do we talk about green machinery? Understanding what green machinery is. There have been cases that, and for example, if you're talking about, as Nuria was talking about recycling, we have our own recycling plant as well. So in certain cases, we find out that, if we just import them as a normal textile machinery category, that's much more faster. Then we're able to procure the machine faster. Because apparently it seems like the documentation and the whole technicality of making someone understand, yes, this is a renewable energy device, or this is a device. This is not renewable energy. So this is a particular device which can actually save energy and everything. So by the time we explain it to them, it takes too much time. So rather just import it as a textile machinery normally. But that for larger companies, it's much more easier. If you're talking about smaller companies, there is a particular challenge because there has been a declining number of factories. We're not just talking about RMG factories for that matter. If we look at the site of BGME, it has been decreasing because the costs have been increasing, the cost of doing business. So in this particular cases, we do require proper understanding. It's not just the number of export values, but if you're talking about how the costs have increased, we can.
Mr. Chaudhary.
But at the same time, the rates of operation increasing. That's not really helping Bangladesh too much. So relevant people should be talking with relevant people.
Thank you
specifically.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. We are almost at the end of our allocated time. I wanted to thank Professor Robin Burgess, Ash, our two presenters, Dr. Rabbani and Dr. Mazab, and our two esteemed panelists, Mashuk Chaudhary and Nuria Lopez. A number of important issues, both from the presentations as well as from the panel remarks. That indeed, being in the supply chain of multinationals or brands, it do incentivize farms or exporters to step up in terms of with regard to various aspects of environmental standards, safeguards, and sustainability, and so on. At the same time, I think it is also the cost is an issue, which means it has to be carefully analyzed how small as well as the lower end of the medium-sized exporters and producers can afford transition towards environmental standards and towards a green factory. And renewable energy, recycling, water efficiency, resource efficiency, extremely important. Together with that, recycling is perhaps another growing element for the future of ready-made garment sector. But in terms of policy, we need clarity, we need definitions, we need tariffs and taxation and other regulatory framework for easier access to the technology, equipments, machines, as well as finance. So I'd like to thank everybody once again for your excellent contribution, and let me hand it over back to Ashfaq. Ash, over to you.